friends, and welcome back to another episode of Go Ask Alice, the show where we jump down random internet rabbit holes and bring you wonderful factoids from our adventures in Wiki Wonderland. I'm Drew, and I think loud noises are funny. With me is...
Oh my god, I can't wait. I'm Lindsay, and I'm staring at a 3-headed baby doll.
I'm Sarah, and I'm trying to give up Pepsi Max.
Sarah, it's like 10 in the morning your time.
No, I mean just generally, I'm trying to cut back on my Pepsi Max soda stream consumption.
Okay. I imagined you drinking it right now.
I would be if I had some in the house. Currently, I'm drinking a soda stream mango and orange, which is very lovely.
That's very breakfast of you.
Thank you.
That is very breakfast.
I am the pinnacle of health.
This is the show where we all start out on the same Wikipedia page, and we each, the three of us, click around on random hyperlinks and whatever catches our fancy until we have found something that we deem metrically interesting, i.e. we cannot stop reading it for 2 or more paragraphs. If that's the case, we are beholden to share it with each other and with you. This week, we started on black holes. But before we dive into that, I think that we really need to take a pit stop in the apology corner.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, no.
Yeah, just gonna stamp my card real quick, my frequent visiting card.
So far it's only been Lindsay in the apology corner. We can call it Lindsay's apology corner.
If any of you ever end up there, I'll just interview you. Like, why do you think you're sorry?
All right, so shall we put the apology music on?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, I'm really sorry that in the last episode, I didn't read the entire article and I had no idea that I was saying a slur over and over and over and over again.
And over?
And I actually feel very bad about it. And I feel so bad about it that I haven't been able to stop telling people that I've been doing this. I'm honestly very sorry. Thank you for your time.
We forgive you.
We forgive you. You're forgiven. Your sins are
forgiven.
You are forgiven. No.
Okay, but no, if I offended any Germans or those of German heritage or descent, I am genuinely very sorry. On that cheery note, where did everyone end up? Oh, no. Question of the week.
Alrighty, so this week's question of the week is, what is the weirdest fandom you've stumbled across? And I think this was a Lindsay special, so Lindsay, you can go first.
This was fresh on my mind because I'm going to say, it was the weirdest, but also most pleasant. It's not like super cringy, but I discovered that, I don't know if you guys remember Lisa Frank. The like school supplies that are like really colorful and rainbow kind of stuff. Yeah. So I'm a huge Lisa Frank fan because I love to put Lisa Frank stickers when I'm grading students' assignments. Lisa Frank herself, however, is not a fun person. I don't want to brag, but I've been involved in the Fire Festival of makeup involving Lisa Frank and Kickstarter. But I recently came into, for free, a bunch of brand new Lisa Frank backpacks from the 90s, and I resold them for over $200 put together.
Whoa.
And it turns out, so like I sold Lisa Frank binders and folders and backpacks and wallets, and I had stumbled upon a Lisa Frank fandom where they were all trying to outbid each other, and it's just a bunch of like, you know, people our age trying to like relive their nostalgia with like tons of disposable income. I hope it's disposable income.
Please be disposable income.
Just don't make your children starve for your Lisa Frank habit.
Oh, we're millennials. We can't afford children.
There you go.
But like, you know, a bunch of these people, like at least 2 people now are like like I was joking with them, like, haha, I feel like I found a Lisa Frank cult, and they were like, I love that.
Oh.
And they'll just randomly text me like, how's your week going? And I'm like,
Aw.
oh my God, good, thanks.
That's
Like a
lovely.
bunch of emojis. Yeah, so I didn't know that existed, but you know, they send me like videos of their collections and stuff, and it's pretty awesome.
That's really cool.
Wow.
Do you like go on the hunt in the op shops for, or charity shops? I forget that op shop is very Australian slang. In like secondhand stores for the Lisa Frank goodies.
I am now. Yeah, I am now. And I guess now that I'm broadcasting this information, everybody should keep their eyes peeled because there's a very real market for Lisa Frank resale.
Oh, I can't wait to go op shopping with you one day.
Oh shit, yeah. What about you, Sarah? I'm interested.
Okay, so I was thinking about this, and I'm going to talk about my favorite fandom of like the last week that I've found, and it's a TikTok thing. And you've probably seen it, but it is the pug that either has bones or no bones. Have you seen these videos?
I just saw a meme about this.
Yes. Oh my God. It's the most pure thing. So it's this man and his 13-year-old pug. And the pug is a big floppy boy. And he tries to pick it up and get it to sit up in the morning to see if it wants to go for a walk. And most of the time it just flops back down. But it's like astrology. You can predict your day based on if the pug has bones or no bones.
Oh my God, I literally just saw a meme that was like the weather app, but it was like bones or no bones.
Yeah.
I was like, is this an add-on? Like, what is this?
Yeah, I love it. It is the most pure thing. And now, because I love it so much, all of my TikTok is just people making memes and jokes about bones or no bones. And I've never identified so hard with a group of people loving the same thing.
That
Yeah.
is so
And
cute.
and the
That's
pug,
an amazing fandom.
the pug's name is Noodles.
Oh, that's adorable.
He's a
Which
very
could have
sweet
bones
boy.
or no bones.
Bones or no bones. I love
Do you
him.
want boneless noodles?
Yeah. What about you, Drew?
What about you, Drew?
So, this is not only a fandom that I've encountered, but I was a very big part of.
oh no.
Oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying this online. I was a brony for a very long time.
What's a
I don't-
brony?
A
Oh my gosh,
brony
she's gonna make you
is a
explain
male
it.
is a male fan of My Little Pony.
Oh, that's cool.
And no, it's not.
Who was your favorite pony and why?
A Rarity. Come on. She is. Oh my God. This is.
What
you
she
just
got
hit
that
a-
we don't got?
What she got that you don't got?
What makes
You
her
know-
so rare?
Well, she's got diamonds as a cutie mark. I'm sad that I remember this. Holy shit! You are hitting me.
Wait,
But
is a
I-
cutie mark like a tramp stamp for ponies?
It's not a tramp stamp. It's what you're good at.
Oh, so she's good at diamonds?
Yes. Well, she's good at accessorizing.
This is great. This is great. I'm
This is-
learning.
Yeah.
This is
The
amazing.
show
So-
is about learning.
This show is about learning.
I've
Well,
never
it
watched
was-
My Little Pony, so
I
this
was
is
very,
great.
very into it for a very long time. Not a very long time. I'd say about 2 years. That's a long time.
How long
now.
ago
Oh
was
my
this,
God,
Drew?
Jesus.
Was
Wait, so
Um,
why aren't you anymore?
Because I grew up.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, like, you seem the same to me now that you were like forever ago, but that's because I feel like when you're still, it's like glacial changes when you like.
Yes.
I don't know.
So this was before college. So this is very much before college. But so then you didn't know me during that brony phase. But yeah, it was the weirdest fandom I've ever been a part of because I read books about Fallout where they involved ponies and Fallout Equestria. Whew, good. Mwah. We say mwah to that. That's super good. I read all, what was it, 160 chapters of that. It was super
Oh
good.
my god.
Wait, it's like
But-
a Fallout with My Little Pony?
Yes, absolutely. Fallout Equestria.
Wait, so it's like, is it just like post-apocalyptic My Little Pony?
Yes.
Wait, that sounds awesome.
That does sound really badass.
Yeah, Fallout Equestria is a good time. It's a really
like-
good time.
It's like Mad Max Lisa Frank.
Yeah.
Exactly, that's what it is. But yeah, I was a brony for a while, and then
How old were
I
you
still have,
when you were a brony, Drew? Was this like a teenage years, early 20s? No shame.
no, this was like 17, 18.
Yeah. And was it like a group of
So
friends?
old enough to vote.
Old enough to vote, and I was a brony. That's fucking depressing.
That's the type of person I want making decisions about.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'd take it over many other people.
I don't think it's that bad because I really think this is related to the Lisa Frank fandom, which is like people trying to relive a certain like
Childhood and nostalgia.
exactly. Yeah, like a childhood innocence. I get that so much. I mean, that's why I doom scroll online all the time is because I'm just looking to immerse myself
Doom
in
scroll?
some Yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing. Like, you know,
Oh,
you're just
I do it every
you're
day.
looking at exactly. Like, you know, trying to enter some kind of world where the real world you take a break from it for a while. I don't know. I do get it. I mean, Drew, you and I were texting today about the marvelous misadventures of Flapjack and wanting
Yes.
to do like, you know, a matching costume. Like, I mean,
Yes.
Halloween is just like a day that everyone can cosplay and no one says anything about
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Like, you know, it's like-
No one gets weird side-eye looks. Like, what the fuck is that?
Oh,
so
hot.
I really do. I think you're being hard on yourself because I really do think that it's very relatable. It just so happens that a lot of people in that fandom I think are cringy, but
Oh yeah.
But you're not
Oh, yeah.
cringy.
yeah, you're not cringy.
I
Say the
am-
two of us.
I am so glad that I'm not cringy to you too, because that means a lot.
You know who is cringy? I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm going to make enemies right now. Super Hulock fans.
I
What's-
venture to say I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Were none of you on Tumblr in like 2011?
No, I never
No.
got into Tumblr.
Jesus. Okay, it was a cross, and then we'll actually get into the show, but it was a cross section of fans that were really, really, really diehard, like foaming at the mouth for Doctor Who, Supernatural, and Sherlock.
Ah, that's very specific.
Yes,
Very-
but those fans would come for your jugular.
White British man enthusiasm.
It's like the second coming of the Beatles.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what fandom you're talking about, and it's now hit me.
Yeah, those were intolerable. And I will say that I never watched any of those shows because of that like fandom.
Yeah,
That's
no,
fair
that makes
It's
sense.
never going to be worth it. Well, anyway, now that
makes
we've
sense.
Well, that was a good
Now that-
black hole to go down.
Yeah.
Speaking of black holes, so we started on black hole. Where did we end up, Drew?
I
I ended up as the mole as a unit.
Oh,
always
I
wondered
love-
why.
I love a good mole unit. Brilliant. Lindsay, where did you end up?
I off-roaded a bit, as did Drew, because I felt that Wikipedia snagged me and reeled me in, but then gave me nothing to subside on. So I ended up off-roading, and I owe all of this to a person named Wayne Wheeler, who wrote a huge article about the history of the foghorn.
I love foghorns. That is great.
I'm very excited. Yeah. What about you, Sarah? Where are you?
So I went on a bit of a definite rabbit hole because black hole, you know, it lends itself to sciencey things, obviously, and I landed on like Nobel Prize type of area. And I was originally just going to do it on the ridiculous statistics of non-diversity and inclusivity in Nobel Prizes until I found something called Nobel disease. which I'm so excited to tell you about because it is just chef kiss classic.
Mwah, we
I was gonna say,
We say
Drew.
mwah.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay. So, Sarah, is yours scientific or social?
A little bit of social because it takes science, but then it's a little bit of like almost an anthropology at looking at Nobel Prize winners and their shenanigans.
It sounds like we're all just going to shit on science for the next hour.
It's okay. We're license carrying scientists.
Oh, that's true. Well, you know what? I haven't gone last in a while, so I'll volunteer for last.
Okay. I don't think I've gone first in a while. If that's
Yeah, absolutely,
That's
Sarah.
cool.
You go first.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so let's dive into Nobel disease. So first of all, we got a preface with the Nobel Prizes, which I'm sure if you haven't heard about them, you've been living under a rock because they've been going on for a very, very long time. And so Nobel Prizes are like when Alfred Nobel died, he left a huge amount of money to be given out in, different areas of both science and then also just in life itself. So philosophy and, literature and peace and things like that. But the sciences are like the most prestigious thing you can do as a scientist is to win the Nobel Prize. However, they've been problematic in many different ways. And I think definitely in the last, 20 years when we've realized that the vast majority of Nobel Prizes for sciences have all been given to white men, and the average age was 60 years old. And, very little like ethnic diversity in the Nobel Prizes, whether it was male or female. But then also for females or female identifying people, literally it's like you could count them on your hand for each category. So there's a lot of problems with that. But when I was stumbling across, doing my my void research of just getting angry about being a woman in STEM, I discovered across like this page called Nobel disease, and I'm like, ooh, I wonder if it is like a true disease that was named after Nobel himself. And it's not. It is so good. So Nobel disease, or Nobelitis, is the embracing of a strange or scientifically unsound ideas by some Nobel Prize winners, usually later in life. It has been argued that the effect results in part from a tendency of Nobel winners to feel empowered by the award to speak on topics outside their specific area of expertise.
Oh, no.
Although it is
Oh, no.
Yeah. Although it is unknown
no.
whether the Nobel Prize winners are more prone to this tendency than other individuals. So good. So one Nobel Prize winner warned others, and he's like, believing you are expert in almost everything and being prepared to express opinions about most issues with great confidence, sheltering behind the authority of the Nobel Prize can give you Nobel disease, which has been described as tongue-in-cheek term. And so he won the Nobel Prize and basically gave a warning to the other Nobel Prize winners. It's like, you're an expert in a very specific area.
Right. Stay in your lane.
Exactly.
Don't branch out.
Exactly. And what
No, so wait. Okay, no, but for real though, the number of times I've heard astrophysicists start talking about COVID, it's like, okay, I understand this is important to talk about, and I understand that you are very good at statistics, but like, you're not that kind of doctor.
Yeah, let the immunologist explain what COVID is, and
Yes. I mean, I do think it is important for all of us to talk about. I do want to say that. But the number of people who just came forward suddenly with a second degree in immunology, it's like, take a seat here, hon. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room all the time, like.
Yeah, and so being in science, I think we see this a lot with, because I think what some people don't realize if you're not in the sciences is that the further you go with science, you become so narrowly, God, can't say that word. You become so specific in your expertise and your research. So, you know, Lindsay and I are astrophysicists. However, we know very different things to each other because our research, even though it's, you know, comparable on the base level that we study stars that are dying, different aspects of this. And, you know, people who've been studying it for many, many years, the very old professors, they are, you know, absolute experts in 1, 2, or 3 very niche things. And yeah, it's, you know, just because you're a physicist does not mean that you're an expert in medical physics or astrophysics, or, you know, it is, you are very niche in your understanding. And of course you can have like a general idea of the principles of physics and things like that. But for example, I shouldn't be using physics for an example because the majority of Nobel Prize winners who have had the Nobel disease have been in medicine. And I think this is really interesting to look at because medicine is so broad. The human body and understanding what is happening physiologically is so immensely broad that it is impossible to be an expert on all levels of medicine because there just is not enough time for one human to learn it all. And GPs obviously have a very good understanding of just general overall health. However, when you get really specific into different parts of the body, those specialists have trained for many, many years to understand something. But I do I feel like I've seen just in my own personal experience talking to doctors about different things that some will dismiss things very quickly even though they're not an expert in the thing that they are dismissing or the thing that they are encouraging. And yeah, so I thought that was quite fascinating. Like once I had I've always had like stress related bowel problems. Sorry, TMI, welcome to the podcast. But my tummy hurts. My tummy has hurt for a very long time.
Sarah.
It's okay. It's much better now. But years ago, I had my gallbladder out and I was seeing a gastrointestinal specialist. And he was doing like a questionnaire about, you know, my life and things like that. And I came out of there bawling my eyes out and had to ring my mummy and like just debrief because before I had to have a colonoscopy, he just was asking questions and I mentioned that, you know, I was finishing my honours and I was applying for PhDs and he's like, do you think you'll get one? Like, do you think you'll get into a program? And I'm like, oh, you know, I hope so. But
yeah, that's why I fucking applied.
Yeah, and then it was just like talking a lot about stress in my life. And that year, I had lost my cousin to suicide, so it was trigger warning. Yeah, so it was a very stressful year, and so he basically put down all my gut issues to stress, and then started telling me like he was speaking as if he was a psychologist or a psychiatrist, telling me that it was all in my head. And I was just God. But you haven't even looked at my bowels. Like you haven't looked at the thing you're meant to look at yet before diagnosing me.
Look into my bowels before trying to look into my soul. I just want to say
that. Yeah.
Look inside me before you look inside me. Thank you.
Exactly. And yeah, it did turn out I have like mild inflammatory things going on, but it never got like no apology or anything like that. But he's just, and that experience was just the pinnacle of what I think Nobel disease is, where you just believe you're an expert in everything and anything. And so I have some good examples, which I think are just so funny. Okay, so let's start.
Let's laugh at people. Let's just start off laughing at people.
Yes. Okay, so have you heard the old wives' tale that if you feel like you're getting sick, you should just take a shit ton of vitamin C?
Yeah.
Which which I must admit, like, I often take vitamin C when I'm feeling a bit run down, even though I don't know if it does anything. And after doing a little bit of research, it probably doesn't, because, you know, you can't just build up different levels of immunity, especially most of the time when you're feeling sick. It's an immunocompromised thing. It's not just you don't have your vitamins, you didn't eat your veggies. So a lot of the time, yes, vitamin C might help in certain ways, but it's not like it's going to kick the cold's butt. That's not how it works. However, this myth was perpetuated by someone named Linus Pauling. So he won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1954. And so he's a chemist, you know, a fantastic chemist. However, he later in life became an advocate for needing to take very high doses of vitamin C to overcome anything. And so this is where it comes, the idea of, you know, you need to take vitamin C to, you know, help the common cold. But it got a little bit more extra than that. He advocated, again, he's a chemist, he advocated that taking very high doses of vitamin C would have therapeutic values for schizophrenia, and it would also prolong cancer patients' lives. And then...
Ooh.
So it's a cure-all.
Yeah, pretty much. You're feeling crap, take a vitamin C. Like, you're hallucinating, take a vitamin C. Like, it's just that, a chemist, again, not even a medical doctor. Chemist. And my favorite line from his paragraph is, these claims are not supported by the best available science.
Oh my God.
And many, many links to different research papers on, you know, the effectiveness of vitamin C for different things. But yeah, I thought that was fascinating because I'm like, oh, I feel personally attacked because I do have my vitamin C in the cupboard that I take when I get a runny nose.
I mean, even my parents are like, you know, I'm not going to get COVID because I take vitamin C, like, supplements.
Oh, I wish it was that easy.
I know.
Yeah, if only.
And stupid me, I was like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Oh, good. Good for you.
Okay, so let's jump on to Luc Montinger. So he won the Nobel Prize in physiology or medicine in 2008. So this is my favorite. Has anyone heard of course you've heard of it, the idea that water has memory?
Yes.
No. Wait, what? No.
Oh no, Drew.
I know so much about this.
It's the worst. So, Drew, it is some very criticized scientists believe that you can, like, water could contain memory of something. So if you put something with a certain DNA in water and then dilute it down so it's, you know, almost completely undetectable, that water would still have those properties. So it's this idea that you could make, like, healing water out of different nanostructures, which, again, scientifically, no, it's if we could make healing water out of different things, everyone would be drinking it and we'd all be, you know, at the fountain of youth. So it is, like, super pseudoscience-y, and very, it comes a lot from, like, homeopathic type treatments where it's a little...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
A little, you know, hand wavy at best. And so Luke, he, you know, again, he won the Nobel Prize in Medicine, but he is, you know, an avid believer that you could get rid of, or you could fight different viruses or diseases in the human body by drinking water that had once had the DNA of such viruses or you know, bacteria.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
This is that diluting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like essential oils are very adjacent to this.
Yeah, absolutely. They're definitely at the same lunch table.
Oh.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Oh, thank you. So, so what is so funny is that his reasoning behind this is quantum field theory. So again, not a physicist, but quantum field theory says that everything vibrates.
The moment you say quantum, here we go.
Yeah.
The moment you say quantum, people are like, I believe it.
Exactly.
I can believe that, yeah.
Exactly. So he argues that so everything vibrates at different vibrational frequencies, which
Yes.
yeah, that is physics. Yes. However, that does not transfer into the water molecules if you have one tiny molecule of your disease or of your bacteria or whatever it is. Not all of the water starts vibrating at that frequency. That doesn't make sense, because if you're vibrating at a specific frequency, you are that specific combination of subatomic particles. Like it just,
right.
It's, but yeah, so.
I like that roll of the R.
Sorry. Yeah, so he believes like you can purify water via these, and he calls them radio waves. It's not a radio wave, dude. Anyway, he's very
no.
Yeah, very problematic. He also believes that vaccines cause autism, which is just a whole nother can of worms, and
Woof.
wholly discredited by every available scientific study we've ever had. It's just nonsense. So that's Luke.
Fuck you, Luke.
Yeah, exactly.
Next, I'm gonna talk about the man who holds, quote, nearly unbeatable record for the shortest time between receiving a Nobel Prize and saying something really freaking stupid about the field in which the recipient had little experience.
Tell me it was during the speech.
It was during the speech.
Yes.
I love also, can I just say, I love that there was a record that like somebody's got a stopwatch and they're like, how long until you say something really fucking stupid?
Yes. So it's Nicholas Tinderbergen. He won the 1973 Nobel Prize in physiologic. Oh, I can't say that word. In medicine, he won the Nobel Prize for body or medicine.
Sure.
So during his Nobel Prize acceptance speech, so again, he's not a psychologist or, a behavioral scientist. He promoted the widely discredited refrigerator mother hypothesis for the causation of autism. Now, so this idea of the refrigerator mother it's, again, widely disproved, not scientifically sound at all, but it's the idea that children are more likely to have autism if their mothers didn't touch them or hug them enough.
Oh my God.
Which is absolute
Jesus.
bullshit at the highest level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot that stems from that is incredibly wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like that at all.
Yeah, so he's the
So he said that during his speech? How did he work that in?
I have no idea how he worked that.
By the way, if you're unloved,
Yeah.
wait, what?
Yeah. So, do you want to know what he won the Nobel Prize for? Nothing to do with autism. He won the Nobel Prize for discoveries concerning organization and elicitation of individual and social behavior patterns in animals. So
Good.
it's the study of animal behavior.
So, okay, here's where I want to make the plug that, like, I feel like I can say this as a scientist among scientists. I feel like I really want to stand on my soapbox for a minute and say that, like, the same way that people unhealthily worship celebrities and follow celebrity advice, this is a dangerous thing to say, because in an era of misinformation, here I am about to say, don't listen to scientists.
Well, listen
But
to
I do at least
scientists in the specific field of which they are a scientist.
Exactly. Like, it comes back to staying in your lane, because this is what I think is like a huge problem, is that, like, scientists are people too. And, like, humans are fallible, and it just really, really gets on my nerves when people say, oh, well, because they're a scientist, they must be right. Like, they just get this free pass. And it's just it's infuriating because it's like, you know, this guy had no business speaking on autism, but because he's a Nobel Prize winning scientist, like, people will believe him. But then at the same time, I mean, it's equally frustrating to be like, nobody's going to listen to Dr. Fauci about like COVID. And it's like, that's literally what he does.
What he does,
yeah.
It's like,
there's no winning.
Poor Fauci, he deserves the Nobel Prize in patience because he is an absolute legend. And imagine going through all of last year before the administration swap, just not being listened to as the world leading expert in diseases.
How did he not? Oh my God. Do you remember that video of Trump that was like him trying, like, not reading the graph correctly? I don't even remember what the graph was about. And I was like, I would have reached across this table and fucking strangled him.
Yeah, that was, I think it was for an Australian interview actually. And
yes, I think it was.
The graph was basically that, you know, US is number one in deaths from COVID infection, mobility rate, like side effects, like just all of these things that stemmed from COVID. And he's like, yeah, we're number one. And
that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
The Australian interviewer was like, you don't want to be number one in this regard. Like your people are literally dropping like flies. It's really sad. Like the amount of people who have died from COVID in the US, I think now it just out totals like, I don't know if, hold on, let me double check this fact. But I thought
it is very large.
Yeah, did it?
Like, it's embarrassingly large.
Have died during World Wars.
Oh, I think we did pass. I think we did pass that marker. Mm-hmm.
Which is just insane.
It didn't have to be that way. It just absolutely did not have to be that way after a certain point.
Yep. Yeah. It's killed more people than the toll of three separate wars. So both World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, which is just insane.
It's like a lot of people.
Yeah,
it's a lot of people.
It is insane, and you think about like the aftermath of World War II, where so many people, particularly men, had died, and trying to rebuild lives around that. And it was a big thing. And then now people are just like, oh, it's nothing, and it's like, no, it's very concerning.
Absolutely.
But yeah, let's get to a brighter topic. I think I might end on my absolute favorite person with Nobelitis. This is Kary Mullis. So he won the 1993 Nobel Prize for Chemistry. And he's actually, scientifically in chemistry, a legend. So he developed the polymerase chain reaction, which, Drew, I'm sure you're a huge fan of, PCR.
Holy shit, I knew that name, and I was like, how the fuck do I know that name? And then Kary Mullis, he's the PCR. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, do you want to, for the audience, do you want to give like a brief plug for PCR?
So polymerase chain reaction allows you to amplify DNA. So it takes a very small amount of DNA and makes it a very large amount of DNA. So you can do a lot more with your DNA because you're not restricted by how much you have. It's a way to exponentially increase the amount of DNA you have. So it's super useful, especially in forensics, because it's just like we have very small amount of crime scene DNA, and then bam, we have a lot more that we can actually use. So it's a very super, super useful procedure.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You just had that immediately. You're like, I know exactly what it says. Blah, 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 blah.
Drew is a legend. Well, and until PCR, so a lot of the time when you think about, because I love true crime, and when you learn about a lot of cold cases where they collected, different swabs, but they didn't understand what they might be able to do with these swabs, 50 years later. Especially in the 80s and the 90s, where they could start doing DNA testing, that testing pretty much ate up the entire sample, and you would have literally none left over. And so a lot of the cases that get solved, cold cases that get solved with today's technology, are the ones that, in the 80s and 90s, when they could start doing testing like this, they said no because they were concerned about it eating up all of the sample, and they wanted to wait until there was a way to do it without completely destroying, everything that they have, which I think is just amazing that, people had the foresight back then to be like, oh, we might wait a few years just in case, which is pretty cool. But anyway, so this dude, brilliant chemist. However, he disagreed with the widely accepted and scientifically verified view that AIDS is caused by the HIV virus. So yeah, he just did not believe that AIDS was a result from having HIV. I don't know how he didn't believe that, because there's so much evidence to say that it is. He also questioned the evidence for human contributions to global warming, which...
Woof.
I don't know how any scientist... I don't know. I'm speechless.
That's really shameful.
Yeah, the poor planet was fucking her over. And then he also professed his strong belief for astrology. And this is my favorite line I've ever read on a Wikipedia article. Are you ready?
Oh, no.
Yes, go for it.
And he claimed that once he encountered a fluorescent raccoon that spoke with him.
Oh my! That's it. That's the Nobel. That's our Alice Prize.
Yeah.
For best line.
There you go.
Yeah. So I think that wraps up. That is Nobel disease, where it's, if you're an expert, stay in your lane. Yeah. Don't be a douche.
Wow.
That's amazing. That makes me feel, what? I'm really glad we could kick things off just feeling better than smart people. What a great way to start. Like, yeah, I'm better than those people.
I highly recommend anyone who's listening to go Google it afterwards, because there's some other rabbit holes of like people who on it are just unbelievable. And one I didn't bring up was the Nobel Prize winner for basically discovering, like DNA, like being able to break down DNA and sequence it. However, he was a strong belief that across human races, like you could make differences with our DNA, and of course in our DNA there's different things that things either switch on or off for different traits. However, he was a bigoted racist who just outwardly claimed that anyone of, Black or Indigenous descent were intellectually less smart than Caucasians because of their DNA, which is scientifically not a thing at all, and is the most...
Yeah.
Woof. He's just awful. But if you want to learn more about that... yeah, it's interesting because it just makes you furious.
Is this person still alive?
I think he might be, yeah.
Let's start a Patreon to go kick him in the fucking gut.
It's just... yeah, it's fascinating. It's sad.
It's gross.
Yeah, it's gross.
I don't know.
Like, I want to go to all these people and just rip their Nobel Prize away from them and just smack them across the face maybe once or twice, like a fish.
Yeah.
Just no.
So should we go
like in kindergarten? Like if you're like rude on the playground in kindergarten, like you don't get your cookies. So
yeah,
I would just like to go up to racists and be like, okay, you don't get to have fucking anything.
Exactly. It's astounding. Yeah.
Wow. Everyone punch a racist today.
On that note, shall we go to Drew?
Yeah, I'm fired up. What you got, Drew?
You're going to tell us about moles?
Can we take a break? I really have to pee.
Yes,
wow.
Yes, we can.
Do you love a good story? Her American Story is a podcast for anyone who loves a good story. first and second generation American women share their American experience. Sharing our stories helps us to relate to one another, build understanding, as well as provide representation for those that need it most. I grew up in a smaller American town and lacked representation in my community and simply in media at that time. I created something I wanted to hear. I hope this podcast reaches those that need it most, as well as serves as a collection of simply interesting stories. Listen wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at HerAMStory. Everyone has a story. Share yours with me. Email me at heramericanstory@gmail.com.
Oh my god. John, were you up on Wikipedia all night?
John, are you okay? You're shaking.
You guys, you will not believe what I just read on Wiki. Welcome to Reddit on Wiki, the poorly researched, semi-funny podcast on random stuff we find on the internet.
Who are you talking to?
And why are you shaking so much?
Subscribe to Reddit on Wiki on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Sean, I'm scared.
Me too, buddy. Me too.
We left off on Drew, and then you were like,
Oh,
we
shit.
have to pay now.
I gotta pee. Sorry.
Tell us about moles.
Okay, so the unit, the mole as a unit. So I'm not sure how much you two have encountered moles, molarity, or molar mass. I'm sure you've
much.
encountered it in, a little bit, like here or there. But
For
the
some
mole is
reason-
very. Go on.
For some reason, we use it when we're talking about abundance in the sun sometimes.
You use
Like-
moles?
Yeah, well, sometimes we do have to use like mean. I guess we use mean molecular weight. Actually, that's not the same thing as moles. We use moles when we do thermodynamics, but then like nothing else.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I don't know, Sarah, if you encounter it in different places.
I have never personally had to use a mole. Thank God.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I used it a lot in high school,
Oh,
like
actually,
chemistry.
yeah, not in my professional research career, in learning science,
Yeah.
for sure. But yeah, in my PhD and in research, no.
So it's very important to chemistry, as it's a very convenient way to express the amounts of reactants and products in a chemical reaction, such as 2 moles of hydrogen gas, H2, and 1 mole of oxygen gas, O2, forming 2 moles of water. So without the mole as a base unit, it would be very difficult to express that kind of chemical reaction. So, moles are very, very important.
That makes sense.
So the current definition of moles, which was changed the 20th of May, 2019, so very, very recently.
No way.
Yes, 2019.
This is hot everyone, this is hot goss. Pay attention.
Hot gossip. So the 20th of May, 2019, the mole is defined as containing exactly 6.022140076 times 10 to the 23rd elementary entities. So this could
Y'all
be
got that?
used. Y'all got that?
Write it down.
This could be used to measure the number of atoms, ions, electrons, or basically any other elementary entity that you want to measure. So this number was specifically chosen so that 1 mole of chemical compound in grams is numerically equal to the average mass of one molecule of the compound in Daltons. So we go further down the rabbit hole in Daltons. So a Dalton...
Okay.
A Dalton is the unified atomic mass unit, which is 1.660 times 10 to the negative 27th kilograms, which can be used to express the mass of atomic scale objects. For example, one mole of water contains 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd, Avogadro's number, molecules whose total mass is 18.015 grams, and the mass of one molecule of water is 18.015 Daltons. So Daltons and moles allow you to talk about either one molecule of something or a bunch of molecules of something. So it's very good to have Daltons and moles, because moles allows you to work in grams versus using Daltons, because Daltons suck because they're so, it's like you can measure the mass of an electron in Daltons, and that's, you don't want to be measuring that out, do you? You know what I mean?
You don't want to be measuring out an electron at a time.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
thank you.
So the mole also allows chemists to define the concentration of a solution, or molarity, in that molarity is defined as the amount of dissolved substance in moles per unit volume solution. So the mole is super important to chemistry, and this is speaking as a biochemist, as it allows us to speak about measurements in grams versus measuring things in Daltons, as I said, and the mass of 1 mole of substance is equal to the molecular mass in grams. So
why don't they just use grams then?
Well, because grams isn't directly linked to moles, and so it's kind of hard to work with grams. But if you start using moles, then you're able to say the molecular mass is in grams. You know what I mean?
No, but that's okay.
So the molecular mass on the periodic table, that's technically in Daltons. And so you're able to work with moles of that or grams of that by saying a mole of that atom, a mole of that atom equals this many grams.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Okay, so that's it makes life so much easier because you're able to say, it's basically saying like, oh, a bunch of this shit is going to be this many grams.
And it's easier to count that way rather than just a gram, like just counting a gram. Got you. Yes. So
you may be asking, what's the history of moles? And you know what, Lindsay? I'm going to fucking tell you.
Sit right here and you're just gonna fucking tell me. I'm gonna sit right here and you tell me.
Calm down. I'm going to tell you, okay?
Okay, I'll buckle my seatbelt back on.
Buckle your seatbelt in, because the history of the mole is intertwined with the history of molecular mass, atomic mass units, and the Avogadro's number. So 3 things. It's intertwined with all 3. No, it doesn't deserve it.
Well, just anytime you're like, and it's connected to Avogadro's number.
Okay, so the first table of standard atomic weight, atomic mass, was published by John Dalton in 1805, which was based on a system in which the atomic mass of hydrogen was defined as 1. So everything else was based off of the hydrogen being 1. So basically, these relative atomic masses were based on stoichiometric proportions of chemical reactions and compounds. And stoichiometry is the relationship between quantities of reactants and products. So if we were to take the reaction of... What?
I used to know that. Because what a fun word that is.
Stoichiometry?
Yeah. Sounds very New Jersey.
It's a great word.
Yo, AOA, stoichiometry. AOA.
Hey, I'm stoichiometry here.
Hey, you hit him on the head. You give him a good stoichiometry on the head.
Sarah, welcome to New Jersey culture.
Welcome to New Jersey.
Oh my god, I've only been to New Jersey. Oh, that's a lie. I've been there a couple times because Princeton's in New Jersey. I forgot about that. But the only time I've ended up in like New Jersey near Manhattan was we took the wrong ferry from the Statue of Liberty. And the ferry went to the New Jersey port, which was in the middle of freaking nowhere. And we ended up walking for ages to try to find somewhere to call like a taxi or like somewhere to book an Uber pin, because we were just like in the middle of like a shipping yard. But the view from there was absolutely spectacular. Like the Manhattan skyline was just incredible. But yeah, that was my adventure into New Jersey, and I was a little afraid.
It's about the journey. It's about the journey.
Yeah.
Where was I? Basically, Dalton standardized atomic weights using hydrogen as 1 atomic mass unit. Okay.
Right. That's where we were.
Yes. Yeah. So John Jacob Berzelius, on the other hand, aimed to standardize atomic masses using oxygen, which is much more useful because oxygen actually forms compounds with other elements, especially metals. So hydrogen, it doesn't really form very many compounds, while oxygen forms a ton of compounds because it's way more reactive. And Berzelius wanted to basically fix the atomic mass of oxygen at 100, which really didn't catch on in the end, but he wanted to fix it at 100 so that everything else would be based off of oxygen. But that really, really didn't catch on because no one really wanted to keep oxygen at 100. So then a bunch of other scientists began to expand on Berzelius' work. But instead of using oxygen at 100, they used hydrogen at 1. And so they kind of combined the two between Dalton and Berzelius. And so they ended up with hydrogen at 1 and oxygen at mass of 16, which later became the standard as it was way more convenient to use. And so how does moles actually interact with this? So the term mole was a translation in 1897 from the German unit mole, which, not too big of a difference, as coined by Wilhelm Oswald in 1894 from the German word molecule.
That makes sense.
I always wondered if it had to do with molecules.
Yes, it does. Molecule was the German word molecule. Sorry, it should be molecule. That's where the term mole came from.
I was secretly hoping it had to do with like the animal mole.
No, it doesn't. Sorry.
I love moles. They're so cute.
So Oswald at around 1900 wrote that the molecular weight of a substance expressed in grams shall henceforth be called the mole, and the amount of gas that occupies a volume of 22,414 milliliters in normal conditions is called a mole. So that number may seem very, very random, but it came from the ideal gas law, which I don't know if you two remember that, but it's PV equals nRT, where pressure times volume equals number of moles times your ideal gas constant times temperature.
Oh, do you mean one of the most important equations in thermodynamics?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. But for those who don't know, that's what it means.
We're such nerds.
And,
We're all like, yeah, of course.
Thermodynamics is it's my love language, Sarah. I would go so far as to say I'm really fucking obsessed. That's the one condition I'll be like, yeah, let's talk about this.
Yeah, give me Pivnert and I'm in. No.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
I saw this amazing meme that was like 3 words better than I love you. Assume ideal gas.
Drew, can you update your Tinder profile to say just give me Pivner?
Give me Pivnert and I'll be happy.
Give me Pivnert or give me death.
Be the PV to my NRT.
Okay, even I would swipe left on that.
Oh my god. Jeez. So this directly connects Avogadro's number to moles and moles directly to molar mass. So there we go. Now we have moles as Avogadro's number and molar mass. Oh, sorry. Jeez, you got me on that Tinder.
No, this is good.
Okay, good. So now we're jumping ahead a bit to the development of mass spectrometry, and so oxygen 16 became the standard substance that they used to calibrate everything. But in the 1960s, this was replaced by carbon 12, where the definition of mole was defined as the amount of substance in a system which contains as many elementary entities as there are atoms in 0.012 kilograms of carbon 12. So thus the definition of 1 mole of pure carbon 12 has a mass of exactly 12 grams. So the mole became an SI unit from then on in 1971. So now, go on.
I'm sorry. I just want to ask, who decides this?
There's a committee, isn't there?
Yes, there's a huge committee. I'm forgetting the name of it, but it was like the committee of standards. No, I'm thinking of NIST right now, and that's not NIST. It's like an international committee that decides this.
Okay.
But
sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It is an international committee that decides this.
International System of Units is. I think NIST does have something to do with it.
NIST does, but I don't think NIST is not international.
That's American, isn't it?
That's American, yes.
Maybe they all just meet together and have a party about how they measure things.
Yes.
I do think I would go insane if that was my job.
Well, have you seen the...
What are you?
Yeah.
Go on.
Sorry?
Oh, I was going to say, have you guys seen the new beautiful kilogram SI thing? Because the thing that
No,
we
I
had-
haven't.
Yeah, the thing that we had to measure what a kilogram was technically decaying. So in X amount of so many years or hundreds of years, it would be less than a kilogram. And so I think the new kilogram is based off of... They based it off some type of molecular structure of like a stable thing. But let me find... New SI. Sorry, I'm trying to find a picture for you.
It's okay. While you find that, I'm just going to say in 2019, which is very, very recent, the mole is no longer defined in terms of physical objects, but rather defined in the terms of a physical constant. So instead of using carbon-12 to define the mole, mole is literally just became 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd elementary entities of a substance. So it was no longer defined by a substance. It was purely just like, it's this thing.
The number.
It's a constant.
Yeah. That's so much more reliable because then we get stuck in this like, oh, the kilogram decayed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And funny enough, there's actual criticisms of the mole as an SI unit, which I'll get into, but that was one of the very many criticisms of it, was that it's just like, why measure a physical thing when we have these physical constants?
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, so here the kilogram, the actual measurement of a kilogram, has lost about 40 micrograms since like its inception as an SI unit, which is about the mass of an eyelash. So not very much, but it is very tiny. So yeah, that's why they adjusted it with the new definition. What is the new definition? Give it to me.
We need to know. The public needs to know.
The public needs to know about the definition of a kilogram.
I'm reading the article real quick. I forget what it was.
While you look into that, I'll talk about the first criticism of mole as a SI unit. So the first criticism, go on.
Planck's constant. They're using Planck's constant.
Oh, okay. So they're using
Yeah.
a constant versus using like measuring something.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, please go on. That I couldn't exist not knowing what it was again. I'm sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. So the first criticism is that the number of molecules / electrons / basically anything in a given amount of material in a dimensionless quantity that can be expressed simply as a number and therefore cannot be associated with a discrete base unit. So what this means is that if you were to count the number of electrons in a substance, the value would just be a number of electrons and should not be associated with a base unit. It would just be a number. And so you don't need a base unit to say this many number of electrons. It would just be that many electrons. Do you know what I mean? Or is that...
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the second criticism is that the official mole is based on an outdated concept of substantive and logically cannot apply to electrons or dissolved ions, since there's no electron or dissolved ion substance that can be used as a base measurement. So this criticism is now basically void because, it's a bit void, because now we're using just a pure physical constant versus using a substance. But it was actually very interesting to think about because you can't measure a mole of electrons or you can't measure a mole of dissolved ions because, there's no hunk of electrons or there's no hunk of dissolved ions that you can really measure. So I just found that very, very interesting.
Some of this seems a little circular to me.
Yeah, it kind of is at the end of the day. It a little bit is, but these are people who are measuring measurements, and so it's kind of, this is their thing, being a little circular. But
This is what I
This
mean.
is
Like,
their
I would
thing.
hate this job.
Yeah. It would be a bit too tedious for my chaotic mind.
Yeah.
I think I would really flip the table, and I mean that literally. I think if you put me in this job for 2 days, I'd be like, fuck this!
Fuck this.
Flip the table. But great that people do it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Someone's got to do it. All right. So the third criticism is about the use of mole in thermodynamics. Here we go.
How could that? Wait a minute. Okay. Wait, can you put in like a little John? Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. What? Here we go. Jersey remix. Let's go.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. I'm literally, I didn't even notice until this moment. I'm repositioning myself so that I am like like on the edge of my seat. I'm so ready.
You were really digging these criticisms.
She's ready.
Tell me.
Okay, so basically the mole in thermodynamics is irrelevant to analytical chemistry and causes avoidable costs to maintain the substance that the measurement is based off of. So basically,
So it sucks.
yeah, exactly. It sucks. The substance that they use is so expensive to maintain that, like, why are we maintaining it when it's not really even relevant to modern analysis? It's just kind of there, you know?
It just is there.
Yeah, it's there, and it's so they're saying that the SI unit is a very outdated chemical measurement, and it's unsatisfactory in maintaining it's unsatisfactory in modern analysis, and maintaining the substance is a cost that is not necessary. So that's a huge criticism of moles in thermodynamics, because it's just like, we don't even need this, and using it is actually just like a cost that people don't need to like use or spend anymore.
Right.
So it's just very, very funny to me. So the fourth and fifth criticism kind of are intertwined a little bit, because they say that the mole is not a true metric or measurement; it's a parametric unit. And then they also say that a number of entities as quantities of one dimension must be distinct from entities of units of continuous quantities. So basically, what they're trying to say is that the mole is a unit of immeasurable entities and should be defined and should not be defined as a base unit. And there should be a distinction between continuous quantities and enumerable aggregates. So how can something that's enumerable be a base unit? To me, this is very confusing.
A little bit.
That is very confusing.
But they're saying that there should be a clear differentiation between measurements and enumeration, because basically we're kind of saying that it's 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd like electrons, or 10 to the 23rd neutrons, protons, whatever you want to call it. You're just kind of saying it is that. It's not really a direct measurement, and so we need to really
nobody counted those.
No one counted that, and so it's kind of it's an enumeration versus a measurement. Like a kilogram, is exactly that. It's a kilogram, but when you have this enumeration, it's just kind of like it's whatever. It's this number that we're not assuming it, but I guess we kind of are assuming it at the end of the day. It's just it's that number of electrons. No one counted that out. It's an enumerable number. So I think
so. It might as well just be that number, like just that number, and we just believe it, or we just standardize
exactly.
to that number.
It's so you don't really need a unit because it's just an enumerable number that you're just kind of assuming.
Innumerable number.
Yeah, well, an innumerable object. I don't know.
That'd make a great name for a band. Innumerable number.
Ooh, innumerable number. I like it. So how I really wanted to cap this off was talking about Mole Day, which is coming up.
It's a day.
Yes, it's coming up on October 23rd. So it starts at 6:02 a.m. and ends at 6:02 p.m., which I found very, very funny, because it's 6.02 times 10 to the negative 23rd. So it's there.
So
they
just
like
couldn't decide. They were just like, okay, make it till both.
So alternatively, some celebrate Mole Day on June 2nd, so 6:02, or June 22nd, 6:22, or February 6th, for those who use the day, month, year format, so that's,
Like
you know,
most of the world.
Most of the world,
Right.
yes.
Because that
Sorry.
makes so much more sense.
So, yes,
I
most of the world.
Can confirm that living in a country that does day, month, year is the pinnacle of existence. for filling out forms. Very easy.
So,
So-
yeah, go on.
Drew, what's your take? Like, what is the what's the proper mole day?
I think the proper mole day, I'm a fan of 622 because it's 6.022. So there's no rounding going on there. But I don't know, the day, month, year, I think has it because they're they're more ubiquitous than our, what is it, month, day, year. So I don't know. I think 6th of February is a good day to celebrate it. But you know, it's coming up October 23rd. Let's all celebrate it at 6 a.m.
We
6
need
or
a
2
reason to
a.m.
celebrate.
Exactly.
I will not be getting out of bed at 6 a.m., but I will celebrate in spirit.
There we go. I'll
Sit
set
up
an
and go,
alarm.
"Woo!"
I'll set an alarm and text all of you.
Great.
Mole day. So I
Moldy.
just found it very funny that even chemists can't agree on the day the day it should be celebrated, and they can't agree on if the mole should even exist. So I just found that very funny. So yeah, it's a little bit about the mole as a unit.
There's a lot of controversy.
Yeah, I was not expecting there to be that much controversy about a unit, but
Me
you know,
neither.
there we are.
Well, it's innumerably numerable.
Exactly. It's an innumerable number.
That was great. Thanks, Drew.
You're welcome. I felt a lot smarter reading that.
That's awesome. Well, I guess kind of in a very, very similar vein, I'm going to talk about something mildly scientific, but probably not because I'm going to keep laughing a lot.
I like this.
Okay, so mine is the history of the foghorn, as I told you.
I'm so excited.
But I think that, you know, rather than explaining what a foghorn is, I would like to hear everyone's impression of a foghorn really quick.
Sarah, it's all yours. The stage is yours.
I don't know what to do. Like a type of noise. Like that. Hello?
I think
Honk.
that's good.
Honk.
Yeah, there you go. Honk. I love it.
I don't know. I don't know exactly what a foghorn sounds like apart from like a big oh. That's it. That's all I've got. I have tears in my eyes. Oh,
I'm just
Drew, you're gonna blow us
I'm
away.
just imagining. Whoa.
That's good. That's a good foghorn.
Oh my god.
Mine is like,
Go on.
Good. Ooh.
Oh, I
It's
just saw
like-
the waveform for my wall. It's really something.
Yeah. It's a bit like Dory trying to talk to a whale.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's what I got, Lindsay.
that's great. So I guess this is stupid. So growing up, I would hear foghorn because, you know, as I was saying, grew up on the Hudson, you know, Hudson River, grew up near, you know, maritime times. I don't know. I would hear foghorns all the time, or, you know, maybe this is relevant to you guys or your backgrounds wherever you grew up. But I would hear a foghorn and I never quite understood why they were needed because I was like, yeah, no shit, there's fog. Like, I don't need a horn to tell me there's fog. Like,
Oh my god. It's not. Oh my god. That is so cute.
I truly never understood. In fact, it took me till just now to realize that I never understood that. But this just goes to show you anybody can pursue a degree in astrophysics. But what I wanted to get at was that the need for a foghorn arises from the idea, if you are stupid like me, that's hard. Let's be a little bit kind. If you just never really thought that hard about boats like me, in the fog, it's very hard to see light. Of course. So a lighthouse is not going to be very helpful in telling you when you are close to land, aka danger, if you're traveling at a high speed. So foghorns were important as a way of penetrating the fog to let boats know, like, hey, this is where the port is, or you should come this way.
It's like a little siren sound to help direct them.
Yeah, like siren as in like the ancient Greek siren,
yes,
right?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
I got you. It was very poetic. But so, believe it or not, it's not as straightforward as make a loud sound. Now the boat knows where you are, because apparently the not to get too deep into the science, but the properties of fog are basically like a really thick air. And sound waves are the compression of air. So if you're moving through two different materials, aka fogless air and fog-filled air, your sound speed is going to change as the wave travels through the air. And so what this actually means to people on a boat or people who are trying to, navigate safely is that they may hear a sound and think shore is a mile away, and it could be 4 miles away. Other weird things can happen, like sound waves can kind of skip entire areas. So you could hear a sound wave for like 1 mile out, not hear it 2 miles out, and then hear it again 3 miles out.
Oh, that's probably got to do with like the waves interfering, like constructive and destructive, like interference.
Yeah, I didn't look too into like the physics, to be honest. Yeah, it probably has to do with like, because another thing that of course fog can do is stop sound dead in its tracks. So I guess this would be like the extreme case of like dampening the sound. But awesome. Other weird fog is pretty like,
it is epic.
Of the 4 elements, if you were like air and water, I'd be like, that's pussy shit. But now when we talk about fog, so another complication that can arise is that it can even change directions. You could think, oh, I've got land dead ahead, and it's actually to your right. So fog can really play some tricky tricks.
Tricky tricks.
Some tricky tricks on you. So an efficient fog signal that is independent of light was of great importance to people who are especially traveling by boat. So people have been traveling by boat for a super, super long time. But the first fog signals were actually developed in Europe in the 1700s. It's a relatively new invention.
Wow.
Relatively.
Yeah, I can't stop laughing at the thought of this. But the first fog signal, especially so in 1700s, the first one implemented in Boston was in 1719. It was just a cannon.
Oh my
just
god.
imagine like, oh, there's fog. Boom.
Boom.
But I think what's so funny to me is that if there's fog, like no one can fucking see anything. So you're just blindly firing a cannon like into
I wonder how many cannon casualties there were from people trying.
Oh my god. Right? Like you're trying to tell a boat, like, hey, there's land here, and you just fucking shoot through the side of the boat like a fucking cannon. So the communication that would happen back and forth is a boat enters the Boston Harbor and they shoot off a cannon to be like, hey, we're here. And then the Boston Harbor shoots off a cannon and they're like, oh, we heard you. middle of the night, there's fucking cannons going off like it's Oh, actually, the Revolutionary War didn't happen yet. Never mind. It's just like, this is like so... I relate to this because when there are delicate problems, I always approach them with a fucking sledgehammer. And to me, this is one of those cases. Because we all know the answer. We all know the answer is a foghorn. But approaching a foghorn problem with a fucking cannon, I just relate it on a very personal level.
Oh my God.
So... Anyway, so the way this would go day to day is that lighthouse keepers, when it was really foggy, like you can't just shoot off one cannon and be like, oh, everybody knows there's fog here and everyone knows where the port is. Like, no, you need to continuously shoot off cannons to let ships know that it is still foggy and we are still here. So lighthouse keepers for fucking days would shoot off cannons repeatedly from the lighthouse.
Wow. That's a lot of effort as well.
It is. And of course, just like you were saying before with casualties and stuff, a lot of lighthouse mirrors and windows usually shattered.
Oh no.
So it was like expensive as far as labor, but also like physical or like, like quite like literally expensive, like physical materials. Yeah. So one example was they started to implement this on the West Coast, and apparently, so this area, the first place it was implemented was called Point Bonita in California, and the area was so foggy that it experienced 1,000 hours of fog a year.
Wow.
As a lot of fog. And a worker sent a very tired letter to his boss that said, I've been up here 3 days and nights and I have only had 2 hours of rest. Meaning for 3 days and nights, he had to shoot off a cannon repeatedly.
What was the time gap between the cannon shots? Like, do you think it was every 5 minutes? Or
it varied very much on where, so I'll give some examples of other methods that were used that did things like every 5 minutes, every half hour. So I think it really depends on the location.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
I'd probably up to the lighthouse keeper's discretion, honestly.
Yeah, because if it was like every half hour, you could get a cheeky 20-minute nap in there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But then how did you wake up back in the day without an iPhone alarm?
Right, or like any kind of alarm clock. Yeah. I think that there were probably a lot of accidents.
Oh no.
And then, just to give you an idea of how expensive this was, the second year that a cannon was that a cannon was implemented in Point Bonita, the second year that they did it, they spent $2,000 on gunpowder, which was 3 times the lighthouse worker's salary.
Wow.
Yeah, so they were like, that's the end of that. We're not doing that anymore. So they went on to develop what other sounds can travel through fog. And so another idea
Go on.
Another idea that they came up with was a giant metal triangle. Long, so longer than a meter, Sarah, on every end of the triangle. This job fucking sucks. This was in 1837 in Maine. They were like, how about a giant triangle?
Oh my God. How big was the stick that they had to hit it with?
Oh my God, imagine just a baseball bat.
Oh, what a job.
This is the worst job in the world. So okay, at this point, to give you an idea, we're at 1837, so we're still, more than 150 years in the past. Things are still developing.
Yeah.
So eventually they're like, okay, we've got to automate this because like you guys have put together this really fucking sucks. So, I'm actually going to volley this to Sarah. Sarah, do you know old-timey instruments. Do you know what a governor is?
No, I don't. What's the governor?
Okay. Drew, have you heard of a governor?
I've heard of a governor, but I don't think it's the same governor that you're talking about.
It's a person.
No. I meant because I've heard about it on like go-karts where they limit the speed of a go-kart using a governor.
Oh.
Interesting. I wonder if it derives from the same place. So the reason I knew what a governor was because I used to work giving tours at telescopes that were made in the 1850s. So it's the same era of time. So it's the same new hot technology. So what a governor is really, really simply a chain with a weight at the end. Throw TBT to Drew's talk about weights and kilograms.
Yeah.
And moles. So it's a weight at the end of a chain. And the idea is that you release the weight, and as it falls, it cranks some gears that are up above. So it's using gravity as like stored energy.
That makes sense.
Using
all that
the
potential
pull,
energy.
Exactly. The pull of this weight is cranking the gears as it goes along. So back in the day with old telescopes, these gears would be meticulously manufactured so that a telescope would track at the same time that the Earth's rotation was happening, so that you could track stars throughout the sky. You don't have to keep repositioning your telescope. So the gears were positioned so that hours, minutes, seconds that are passing also change the direction of the telescope. So actually back then, they used this technology to periodically smack a 2-ton bell.
Oh, wow.
At a lighthouse. So the idea is that somebody would crank up this really, really long or large governor and then just let it go throughout the night, and periodically it would clang a bell. I thought this was so romantic, like gothic romantic, but the governor needs a place to fall. So these were normally built on cliff edges.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so all this like old-timey, like brooding, like seascape, like fog, and then it's like on the cliff edge, and like this old-timey technology, like weight falling slowly and tolling this bell of doom, and oh, love it.
Are there pictures? Are there like any left over?
None like the ones in my head, but there are.
I'm gonna Google it. I want to see how cool they are.
But what's funny, so we come back to Lindsay thinks this is fucking hilarious. The sea salt would like rust parts of the governor, and so the weight would fall, and it would just go, oop, it's all broken now. So it'd just be like one loud clang, and then the rest of it goes in the ocean. So they were like, okay, let's protect this crank. But the process of cranking it up throughout the day was really fucking annoying to people. So they were like, we need to improve. We need to improve this. Mm-hmm. So I guess I spoke too soon. Almost everybody was like, we need to improve this. Mm-hmm. Who didn't need to improve this? Turkish ships. And you may be like, why are Turkish ships so special? You know, Lindsay, you're getting close to the apology corner yet again. Anytime you talk about an individual group of people. Turkish ships didn't give a shit because they would use a gong or a gun. They would not use a bell. And the reason is because followers of Muhammad are forbidden to ring bells because bells are the instrument of Satan.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
That's not handy when you need to make a foghorn.
No. And I'm glad you said foghorn, Sarah, because up to this point, we have not used a horn except for the next bullet point in my notes.
Woohoo! We're up to a horn. What did they used to call it? A fog bell? A fog
alarm.
Fog alarm. That makes sense. Yes, that checks out.
Yeah. So 3 men come along. Gamewell, Stevens, and Daboll. 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 Back to New Jersey. Daboll.
Hey, Daboll, what you doing there?
So Gamewell and Stevens, the first two I mentioned, they are church clock manufacturers. And Celadon Daboll comes along, joins the two of them. This is now in the 1800s still. And he goes, what if we fucking took a clarinet body and a trumpet head and then we put fire and gravity in it? What if we just made a really big, annoying clarinet? Like, also of all the instruments, right? Like, who's like clarinet's gonna save the day?
Yeah, clarinet.
Yeah.
I'll do an apology corner for clarinet players later. But so Deboul comes along. Deboul, I'm gonna say it differently every time. Comes along and he comes up with a coal-fired engine that compresses air and pushes it through this clarinet trumpet. Like there's a giant metal reed in it, and that's where we kind of get the first like real horn. This is now in 1860. Sorry, Sarah, did you find any cool pictures?
No, I couldn't find any cool pictures, unfortunately. Some cool articles, but no picture.
My romantic description, I'm telling you.
Maybe we can get someone to draw us a picture from your description.
Commission some woodblock prints. So, okay, 1860 now, we've got the fire-powered clarinet. That's like what's keeping us safe. And so the natural progression from these coal-fired engines were steam engine. So we get at 1860s is about the time that the steam engine becomes everybody's favorite solution to every problem. So then these are steam powered. However, this is definitely not as funny as Sarah's quote from a wiki article, but this is one of my favorite quotes that I have read while doing this show. A reporter wrote the experience of this hell clarinet.
Hell clarinet.
Oh my god, I can't wait.
So we are not yet at the boo. Like that hasn't been invented yet. Like we had to develop that. Okay, these are like the fucked up attempts along the way. So this is the most dramatic thing I have read. It's about the clarinet. It had, quote, a screech like an army of panthers, weird and prolonged, gradually lowering in note until after half a minute, it becomes the roar of 1,000 mad bulls with intermediate voices suggestive of the wail of a lost soul, the moan of a bottomless pit, and the groan of a disabled elevator.
Oh my god.
What a great writer.
That was so dramatic.
Very,
It's a fucking
descriptive.
siren.
The groan of a disabled elevator. Lindsay's lost it.
Lindsay's lost it.
Why is the history of this really mundane thing so fucked up? We went from cannons to the moan of a bottomless pit.
Bottomless pit.
And you
I
feel
thought this is
so
good.
sorry for people who were living near that and had to deal with that all night.
I don't want to know what an army of panthers sounds like. This is so bad. Okay. Anyway, so that was around 1860. So perhaps due to bad press in about 1870, they started experimenting. And when I say they, I mean there was like an entire U.S. government department dedicated to figuring out the fucking
The
fog
light.
whistle deal.
Yeah, the fog light.
The what?
I called it a fog light.
Yeah.
The foghorn situation.
The foghorn, yes. Like this was like a whole area of research. So they start fucking around with factory whistles, locomotive whistles, sirens, bells, trumpets. And presumably they try this out, I'm going to stand over here on land tell me what you hear, you on a boat, whatever. So they declare that the siren is the most penetrating. So this is the best option to go with, which is why we still hear a siren today. But a Canadian firm developed something called the diaphone, which is also called the Super Typhon. I guess if you're a real fan, you know that. And that's the one that has the boo. And that didn't come about until 1900. But it wasn't introduced in the United States until 1914. So, like, really just over 100 years ago, we developed the sound, which I guess is pretty old.
It's a lot younger than I thought it was going to be, though.
A lot, what?
A lot younger than I thought it was.
Yeah, it's something I really take for granted and clearly know nothing about. It's just this annoying sound. I'm like, yeah, I know there's fog. Anyway. So about 1914, the Americans catch on and they're like, oh, that's good. Like, we're going to take that. And so then we start developing it here. And then the rest is like pretty mellow after that. Drew, are you laughing because I said, oh, that's good. Yeah, so that it becomes what we know here. And at the end of this article, like I said, I really owe the Wikipedia article was very sparse, and I'm definitely going to go in and add some of the work of Wayne Wheeler. So Wayne Wheeler wrote this whole article for the United States Lighthouse Society. It's a whole website, uslhs.org. And he wrote all of the history and put in some really cool pictures himself. So I owe all of this to him. I think it's so cool. And at the end of the article, he tacks on some weird alternatives that never really caught on.
Oh, yeah.
And I think these are very cool. So a lot of people experimented with the idea, what if we don't put these signals out on the coast? What if instead we make buoys that have like a lot of noise in them to alert people that they're at least near a coast? And people played around with the idea of they played around with the idea of how could we get a buoy to make noise, or how can we use waves to make noise? So some people were like, put a fucking bell on it like it's a cow, and they're like, oh, that's actually a great idea. Okay. That's like pretty straightforward. But apparently they just can't get away from the fucking cannonballs. Some people would put a cannonball inside the buoy so that it would like shake more violently, which I love. Don't forget your roots. Other people put in whistles on buoys so that as they would change sort of in relative altitude, bobbing up and down, the bobbing up and down along sort of like a hollow tube. I do not want to say shaft, but it's bobbing up and down a hollow shaft. Doing so along the waves would produce airflow through the buoy. It's kind of like those toys that we had as a kid that would go like boop, boop, like if you like pull like one end of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it would do that, but as a buoy. So it stays stationary and the waves force the rest of the buoy to go up and down along a hollow shaft, and it creates this sort of whistling noise. And a third one, which I really thought was very cool, was that around this time, probably in maybe like the mid 1800s, people started to mess around with the idea of submarines and how could submarines talk to each other. And some experiments, I guess, were done. I don't really know how far this went because I didn't really look into it very far. But they would use one submarine to produce a lot of sound underwater, maybe like ringing like a bell underwater, and try to develop apparatuses that were like farther away on a separate submarine, still underwater, to hear the bell and interpret the signal from the bell. So some people started to say, well, I guess this is along the line of like, if we need some kind of fog signal, what if we just sent the signal like through submarines or something like that? Which I thought was really like forward thinking for people back in 1914.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
the submarine signal company was first started in 1901. So yeah, I don't know, just ways of shouting underwater, I suppose. I don't know. I was honestly just surprised to see that underwater experiments were being conducted, or underwater communication experiments were being conducted in literally the turn of the century. I love like old timey futurism. Like that's to me like what this feels like. I know that's like really close to steampunk, but yeah, just really fascinating. But that is now you know the entire history of the foghorn.
Thank you. I loved it. I loved the wild ride from Canon to extra large triangle. So good.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's become significantly safer. Like, you know, as if we didn't have enough to be thankful for with like vaccines and indoor plumbing. Just also remember that we're not shooting fucking cannons off of every coast. Every time it's foggy.
It's foggy. You better bring the cannon out.
Oh, wheel the cannon out.
Wheel the cannon out.
Jimmy, get the cannon.
It's foggy.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us and learning all about, God, what? Not incest this time.
It was tough on me. I didn't do it.
Thanks for learning all about moles and foghorns and
problematic scientists.
Yeah, asshole scientists. God, that was years ago. Yeah, thanks for spending time with us. We love hanging out with you. It is absolutely incredible and really humbling to us to know that people give a shit. I don't know. It's really cool. Please follow us on Go Ask Alice Pod on Twitter. And I always forget our Instagram and TikTok.
Instagram and TikTok is Go Ask Alice Podcast.
There it is. It's both. It's the same on both.
Yeah, same on both.
Okay, you guys write that down.
Yeah, write that down. Make it good.
And thanks for hanging out with us. And as always, we want to know where you end up on the internet. We want to know what your answer is to our question of the week. We just want to know all about you, especially you, Steve.
Yes, Steve.
Steve's our favorite.
We love you, Steve.
Yes, we do.
She's such a horse.